And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Just Parlays show here at the Max Wagers Network. I am your co-host, Scott Reichel, and joining me, as always, since this is a parlay show, is parlay expert Chris King. Chris, how's it going with you? How's your weekend?
Wasn't a bad weekend. We had some good hits. Yesterday's Dodgers game was a disappointment, though. I will say that. I was not expecting Brady Singer to actually pitch like, he was good or something. And Tyler Anderson kind of looked like what we expected Tyler Anderson to do before the season.
I think Anderson was fine. I mean, what did he give up, like 3?
Something like that. But, I mean, that's basically what you expected from him. It would be on a more regular basis than what we've gotten from him most of the year.
Just saying, though, going into a matchup, you assume that if he only gives up 3 to Kansas City, you were probably expecting the Dodgers to score like 6 or 7.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had scored like, at least 7 and 9 of their last 12.
Yep.
So for them to score nothing was very disconcerting.
Yeah, but, you can't win them all, especially in baseball. Dodgers still been basically running away with pretty much every single home field type of possibility there, dominating the division. I know the Mets have been good lately too, but the Dodgers have been so good, they've also kind of extended their home field in the National League, and really just all of baseball if you want to look at their overall record. But any other takeaways you had from the actual baseball card over the weekend? I see the Yankees are still not very good. I'd say, what do you think the scale should be, 1 to 10 in terms of panic?
Well, I think, like you said, it's still going to be pretty low because as badly as they've played, Toronto hasn't played any better. So you shouldn't be worried about it until you get to October. And then in October, anything can happen, as we've seen in recent years. But as far as, making the postseason, I'd probably say at 2 at most. I mean, you saw they stuck Efros in the closing role Saturday. At least he got some outs. Then they didn't score anything yesterday for Tyone. I actually liked them tonight, though, against Tampa Bay.
I mean, you have Cole on the mound, which makes sense. The only issue that I have is whatever price the Yankees are laying. I'm not sure if I'm interested in actually laying it. Now, Beeks is pitching, and he has good numbers, but we know that Cole's going to give much more length than Beeks. But you're looking at the line here, the Yankees are minus 250. I don't know about you.
I found them at 238 earlier. So
just saying, I have no interest in the Yankees at minus 230, minus 250. This team can't hit. And it's kind of annoying.
Tampa Bay.
That is definitely true. I was going to say, it is annoying for me that the Yankees have been so awful offensively for the last 2 weeks, except the one time it took a team total under, they scored 9 runs against Wainwright, and they still lost the game. The one time it took a team total under. But for me, I think in that game, I think I'm leaning towards Rays plus 1.5, maybe an under in there. I don't trust either offense, but the Yankees, they had 3 base runners against Michael Wacha and Boston's bullpen. I'll pass. I just can't. This team offensively is such a disaster right now, and it really makes a lot of sense when you look at the bottom of the lineup. They got Donaldson, first of all, batting in the 3 spot, and he's been atrocious for most of the season. Then you're looking at Hicks playing almost every day. They used Castro yesterday, who isn't really much better at the plate. IKF had 1 really good game against Boston, but he's not exactly a great hitter. Torres has been useless since the All-Star break. And you could just go down the line. The Yankees just have a lot of automatic outs in the bottom of their lineup, and they expect to just keep winning. And I'm not surprised the offense is struggling. You put the concern at a 2 or a 3 because they're still going to win the division. They should, because Toronto, as you said before, has not been good at all, and the Yankees, despite struggling, are still up 10 games. So they should still win the division. The issue, though, is that the Yankees' goal isn't to win the division. The goal is to make it to the World Series and win a title, and you're 2.5 now behind Houston for the home field. I still don't think the Yankees are going to beat Houston in a 7-game series. I'm not even sure they're going to beat the first-round team in a 5-game series. That's the concern. They're still waiting for Stan to get healthy, Bader to get healthy, and you hope that, the offense can wake up. But they're going to have to call up some of the minor leaguers, and it seems like they're reluctant to do so for some reason because there's a lot of talent down there, and they haven't been called up yet. So I don't really know what the Yankees' game plan is, but I'm more concerned. I got the concern at a 6 or a 7 because this is basically the same thing we saw last year, and they no-showed the wild card game.
Well, my concern with trying to back Tampa Bay at all here is, Beeks is starting. he hasn't thrown more than 2 innings in a game all season.
That's what
So
I'm saying.
you're going to see a parade of relievers, and some of them are good, some of them aren't. We've seen Cody Poche struggle at times this year, especially late in games where he'll turn a lead into a deficit really quick. And I mean, who else are they going to roll out there? We're going to see Ryan Thompson, Jason Adam, maybe Brooks Raley.
Yeah.
None of these guys intimidate anybody. I mean, come on, they got Luke Bard for crying out loud. He was good, 5 years ago?
I just think the concern is nobody on the Yankees right now intimidates offensively. I saw DJ ended up missing yesterday's game with a toe injury. I believe he might be back, but the point is he's below, I'd say 80% in terms of health. I mean, Rizzo has not been great. Nobody on the team's hitting besides Judge. Like that's a serious problem. And Cole was very good last time out. I'm assuming Trevino is going to catch for him now every start moving forward because his numbers with him as the catcher have been amazing. And Higashioka played yesterday, so Trevino had the day off. But I'm just looking at the lineup, and I don't know how I can look at the Yankees who have lost, 8 of 10? And just willingly lay minus 250? I just can't do it on principle.
And about Cole against Tampa Bay this year, 1-0 at 0.93 ERA in 3 starts. He's given up almost as many walks, 7, as hits, 8 in 19 and a third.
Oh, no, he's been great against Tampa, and Choi has been the guy who's done well against him. He hasn't done anything against him this year. But I'm still at least acknowledging the fact that if Cole pitches really well, there's no guarantee the Yankees are going to get him even a win because we saw it against Seattle. He gave up no runs, and it didn't matter because you went to that 13-inning fiasco because the Yankees couldn't score against Castillo. Now, Castillo, of course, a lot better than Beeks and Tampa Bay's bullpen, but I'm at least going to acknowledge that the Yankees' offense is just so bad. It feels like laying a huge price with Alcantara, and Miami is going to score less than 3 runs.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I'm looking at Tampa Bay's, batting numbers, and who do they have that's going to intimidate you? I mean, they hit 238 as a team. You look at the guys that have had the most at bats. Arozarena hitting 258, and then you've got Mejia's at 265, and then Choi's at 242. Taylor Wall still has a job even after 100 games when he's batting $177.
Wonderwall.
Brett Phillips hitting $147.
But he's not even on the team anymore. So.
Well, that's true, but I mean, he was hitting $147. I mean,
he's playing almost every day. Like that tells you how bad the actual situation was there in Tampa.
I mean, their best hitter is Harold Ramirez. He's hitting 329, but he's on the IL too.
Yeah, Tampa can't hit. I'm leaning to the under in that game. I just don't see many runs, but I don't exactly like laying 250. Besides that, though, we'll get into the actual baseball card in a second just to go through some weekend stuff. Kevin Harvick ended up winning again. He went from 0 to 2 straight. And
yeah, figure that. He didn't do it. Couldn't win when we picked him on the NASCAR show, but hey. Now we don't do the show, now he wins.
I would have actually picked him, not this past week, but last week.
Yeah, last week I would have taken him too.
I would have picked him, so we would have gotten something there. It didn't matter, though. But that was a cool story in NASCAR, though. Races are fewer and further between from the playoff, so it's time to start focusing on who might get in. And Harvick went from potentially not getting in to one of the favorites to actually win the overall championship now. So this is kind of an interesting development here. But besides that, I'm trying to think of any other real takeaways over the weekend. We had breaking news in baseball from about an hour ago. The Rangers officially fired their manager, Chris Woodward, and I can't say I'm totally surprised because the Rangers are awful. We expected them to be bad because you signed Simeon and Seager, and your best pitcher in the rotation is arguably John Gray. We thought the team would be terrible anyway, and they are.
I thought you were going to say it was Martin Perez.
Well, going into the season, it was supposed to be John Gray. Perez has been the best pitcher this season, but going in, your number one pitcher on paper was John Gray, which is a serious red flag. So we assumed they were going to be bad. I thought Texas would go like 70 and 92. That was kind of where I thought they were going to go. That's kind of where they're headed. But are you surprised at all that Woodward got fired?
I mean, you can't blame him. If you're anything, you should be blaming the front office for the fact that they didn't bring in any pitchers. I mean, you signed Perez on a 1-year deal. And like you said, You threw money at John Gray, who's a quintessential 500 pitcher at best. I mean, what did they expect? You don't have a staff. You don't have a Kenny Rogers. You don't have a Nolan Ryan or anybody like that that can actually, give you 6 good innings on a consistent basis. I mean, come on, they're rolling out Dane Dunning. They had Spencer Howard in there for a while.
Even an older like Cole Hamels, like anybody that could be slightly mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, you got Glenn Otto.
Yeah.
They called up Reagans from AAA. I mean, none of these guys are good. But you're trying to roll them out there, and you expect this team to have success. I mean, what is Woodward supposed to do with a pitching staff full of 4s and 5s?
No, that's the thing. I don't think Woodward's a good manager at all. And he had some comments. Either he had a couple of moments there, either with unwritten rules or just sounding like he was a whiner. He had the 3-0 controversy with Tatis during the COVID season. And that ended up kind of being funny because they got killed. But he yelled at Tatis for swinging 3-0 with the bases loaded for hitting a home run, which is what he gets paid to do, by the way. And then I believe it was last year he got angry at Yankee Stadium saying that, they play in some like Mickey Mouse Park where
Little League Park.
Except the home run he was referring to would have been a home run in every ballpark. So I don't know what he was really complaining about in the situation. But Woodward has really done a lot of complaining. And his teams haven't done anything. Now, I will tell you this. I do think Woodward was set up to fail because I think the rotation was so bad that there's no way this team was going to go above 500. And also, if you look at the contract, Seager's been a home run machine. But, I mean,
Semien was hitting about $140 for the first 2 months of the year.
I was going to say, Semien's been terrible, and they paid him a bunch of money. And the pitchers in the rotation and the bullpen have not been very good. So I don't think Woodward really had a shot. But when you said, is it really his fault? We both know that doesn't matter. Because the last thing the front office is going to do is take accountability. They're going to fire a scapegoat.
True.
And that was what Woodward was going to get you. So I can't say that I'm surprised that he got fired, but he did cash the next manager fired prop or however you want to look at it. So there you go.
Put it this way. If Woodward had gone 83 and 79 with that pitching staff, would you vote for him for AL Manager of the Year?
I wouldn't vote for him to win Manager of the Year, but he'd be in my top 5. The only thing I know is that Texas right now, only being 12 under, is actually not that terrible.
I would agree with that.
You assume with that rotation and with Semien's numbers in the first half, Texas would be like, I don't want to say Detroit bad, but they would be maybe 20 under.
20 so Kansas City bad.
Can't give or take. Maybe Angels bad right now.
Well, the Angels are only half a game behind them.
That's okay. Still, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. But
right.
The point is, they're only 12 under, which, of course, isn't good. I'm not saying that he should brag about being 12 under. But the pitching staff was so bad, you would have assumed going in, as I said before the season, I figured they'd end the season 22 under, something like that. So I think they've been pretty much where I expected them to be.
And the weird part is they scored a ton of runs because their run differential, despite that horrific pitching, is only -2.
Yeah.
But that's because, like I said, they scored 511 runs.
That also could be why they fired him, because the Rangers, which touches upon the run differential, they have one of the worst one-run records in the history of the league. They are historically atrocious in one-run games this year, and maybe they decide to blame it on the manager.
I mean, you look. It could be that. It could be the fact that you didn't get him any pitchers.
Yeah. I
mean, you traded Bush. Now Moore's out on a personal issue for probably who knows how long. Who do they have in the bullpen that anybody cares about? Do you care about anybody in the Rangers pitching staff at all outside of Perez? I mean, everybody else sucks.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not related to any of them, so no, I don't have any attachment to any of the pitchers on the staff. Gray, I'll give props to, is actually decent for the last couple of months or last couple.
Before he got hurt for the 17th time.
Well, that was expected at some point. I know Dunning has actually been better lately, not really, but he had a win the other day, which I think was his first win of the year. Got a no decision, I think, against Seattle his last time out, but he has not been good either. Yeah, I think Reagans has been okay, but I don't really have any other takeaways. We had a WNBA season finale over the weekend. Liberty still hanging in there. My 420-1 ticket on the Liberty to win the title.
I like how that line moved because it was 2.5 when we were talking about it Saturday night, and then it closed at 4.5. So if you bet it late, you didn't cover.
Landed 4. Definitely not a fun time if you were late to the party there. I found it really weird, though. I ended up winning my play of the day with the aces. But can you explain to me why no teams rested any starters in meaningless games? Like, what are we doing?
It didn't make sense to me either because I was talking with you about the Mystics game because they were playing Indiana and you thought that they weren't going to play Deladon and everybody else.
And Indiana, I know, is terrible, but if you're Washington, you're guaranteed to be the 5. And
yeah, you're stuck playing Seattle no matter what.
Yeah, and you've been resting Deladon at various points in the year because you want to keep her healthy. Why did you decide to try to blow out Indiana like with all the starters? I don't understand it for half of these teams. And they just said, all right, I'm all in. And even Chicago used everybody against Phoenix, and they just saw the Aces clinch the 1 seed right before they ended up playing.
Yeah, and then you had the Sparks who just played the way they have all season.
Well, that game didn't matter at all. Dallas just decided to have a last-minute tune-up game after getting run out by the Liberty last time out. But I just don't understand the logic for half these teams, and I'm happy and a little, I don't want to say lucky. The Aces looked like they were not going to cover for a decent portion of that game.
Yeah, like I said, I turned it off in the third quarter when they were down 6.
They went on a 12-0 run to end the third quarter, and then they ended up scoring 109 points. The game was a phenomenal basketball game. I recommend if you watched it. I'm sure you agree that it was just very good. But the Aces covered. I still don't know what Seattle was trying to do, but it didn't matter in the end. I most of the games yesterday in WNBA did not go my way. I did get the Liberty right, and I got the Aces right. Besides that, though, I was kind of leaning towards the Dogs because I thought that no other team would actually try, and every team tried. So if you actually took the favorites in every game, you cleaned up. The favorites dominated.
The only other one I took the Sun because we had talked about that game with Minnesota.
Yes, and they did not cover on the closing line. Similarly to the Liberty, they covered early, but if you got them late, they missed out by half a point.
Right.
So, yeah, but I was right about the Sun game, too. I like them winning. But, yeah, but once again, if you took the favorites, they absolutely dominated. And I thought the underdogs would do well because I didn't expect the favorites to try. But
yeah, and I mean, that made sense because, like you said, pretty much everything was locked in. I mean, once Vegas won, Chicago didn't have anything to play for.
You know, Phoenix actually had more to play for than Chicago because Phoenix could still technically get the 7 seed.
Right. And of course, that didn't pan out.
That's good for me.
Yeah,
for a Liberty ticket, I'm screwed either way in the first round. Like I didn't get this ticket expecting the Liberty to be favored in the first round series, but I wanted to play Chicago instead of Vegas.
So you get a different kind of track meet.
Well, the thing is, the Liberty have actually been okay against the Sky this season. The Aces have been up like 20 points in each of the meetings at some point against the Liberty. So I'd rather have faced Chicago if I had a choice. I'm not picking to beat Chicago, but I was happy with how it played out.
So where are you going to hedge? When are you going to hedge that ticket?
I have no idea because I've been trying to shop around to see if there have been first round series prices. I haven't found anything. I'm curious what the Sky is going to be. I'm assuming the Sky is going to be close to minus 400.
You think that high?
Yeah. I think they'll be that. They're the defending champions. I think they'll be that high. I think that you can make an argument that Vegas, who's minus like 1,000 and favored by 14.5 points in game 1, might be like minus 2,000 to beat the Mercury. But I do think that Chicago will be a hefty favorite. Not an Aces range, but maybe ceiling-wise, shopping around for the worst line available, maybe 500-600.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
if the Liberty force a game 3, I'll be happy. Like if they win a game, I'll be fine.
Because it'll be at home.
No, just in general. Just the fact if they end up beating the number 2 seed in a game, I can live with a winner take all situation. Like I'll see what happens, and hopefully the Liberty can surprise some people. But I'd rather play Chicago than Vegas, and I got Chicago, so I can't really complain.
And in other news, Miles Brennan, the oft-injured quarterback at LSU, has the school announced now that he will no longer play college football.
Does that mean he's retiring, or does that mean he's transferring?
No, I guess it means he's retiring. I
Okay,
guess
I guess he had too many injuries.
Yeah, and plus, you knew he wasn't going to win the job after Jaden Daniels transferred there.
But we saw that with Toledo last year because Peters retired, didn't he?
Yeah.
So we've seen it. You get injured and you decide you weren't going to go pro anyway. You might as well get an education and try not to do any more harm to yourself. But anyway, do you want to pivot towards a topic that we kind of put on the back burner for a couple of weeks? We're going to get into the parlays in a second. However, we're going to resume our college football discussion and conference actual breakdowns. And we went through all the Power Fives. We did that a couple weeks ago. Now it's time to get into the group of fives. And we're going to start off with the most patriotic league, the Conference USA. And we're going to be going through our thoughts for the actual conference, who's going to win, and then we're going to talk about maybe a win total that we like. Truth is, I really didn't like many win totals in this conference. I was torn on a couple. But to go through the actual Conference USA, the favorites, UTSA, to repeat is around plus 240. UAB is around plus 250. Besides that, if you want to go
everybody else blows.
I was going to say, if you want to go through some long shots, Western Kentucky, I believe, was around 5-1, 6-1. FAU was around 8-1 to 10-1. Then you had most of the other teams like North Texas at 15-1. I'm going to start off with a basic question before we get into the team breakdowns. Is there any actual sleeper that you like, or is this just UTSA versus UAB?
I think it's pretty much UTSA and UAB. I mean, we talked about, like you said, Doge decided to transfer again for Western Kentucky, so they're going to have the kid from West Florida is going to be the starting quarterback.
Well, the thing is, though, you could read between the lines there that Doge clearly went to Western Kentucky because they play up tempo. He saw Zappy's yards and touchdowns and said, I'm going to put up huge numbers. And Western Kentucky compared him to the D2 guy, and the D2 guy won the job, so that's why Doge transferred. So I don't think it changes really anything. The only difference it would make is if Reed gets hurt or if he just sucks. They don't have a backup option now. But
right.
Doge clearly lost the starting job, which is why he ended up deciding to transfer.
Now, do you think he's going to end up going anywhere, or do you think he's just going to be,
where's he going to go? He has no
floating because
he's also not very good. I didn't watch West Virginia the last couple of years and said I really like this Doge guy. He is
the leading active quarterback in passing yards.
It's good for him. What do he play? 55 games?
That's possible.
I'm saying it's more volume. It's quantity over quality when it comes to his stats because I don't think he's any good. Now, Reed, I actually think is going to be pretty good, but then again, D2 success doesn't translate to D1. But they have too many question marks at quarterback, and I think that's a serious problem. And Zappy, you can make an argument, was the best quarterback they ever had besides maybe Mike White.
Right.
So you lose an all-time program great quarterback, I think you're going to struggle. And we know Western Kentucky's defense is kind of an oxymoron because they don't play any defense.
They belong in the Big 12.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm not picking them. For long shots, I liked North Texas last year at the end because they won a bunch of games in a row to even make the bowl game. I actually picked them to beat UTSA last year, and they did. Pretty handily. I think they beat them by
55-24 or something like
I had
that.
them winning. It was the game after. I figured UTSA would be so hungover from beating UAB they would no-show the game, and they no-showed the game.
Yep.
But North Texas would be, I guess, technically my long shot lean. I wasn't fully sold on their quarterback situation. They still have Un there for about the 15th year. 29-year-old college quarterback.
He's a junior.
29-year-old college quarterback. Still around. I don't like their weapons. Their defense is okay. But I didn't like the schedule for North Texas. They have a bunch of road games against UAB, UTSA, and Western Kentucky. Pass. I don't think they're going to win either of those games.
Hey, and UTEP.
It's not. UTEP might actually be mediocre. I think my long shot, technically, if I had to put one down, was FAU. Now, for full disclosure, I don't think this team is very good. However, I looked at the schedule. FAU's conference schedule is actually not that bad. They play at North Texas. They play UAB at home. They play Western Kentucky at home. And they do not play UTSA. So for schedule, I didn't mind FAU. because I don't mind the schedule. I think it's not bad. Perry, I watched it at Miami. I don't think he was very good, but last year they needed one win in the final 5 games, and they would have made a bowl game, and they went over. So
Yep.
Florida Atlantic had a decent start to the year. The issue was they couldn't win a game to save their lives down the stretch. I lean there for a long shot. I'm not going to bet it at 10-1, but who are you picking between UTSA and UAB?
I'm going to lean towards UTSA. They've just got so many guys back. Frank Harris is back for. We were just talking about Un there. Frank Harris is back for his 37th year.
They got everybody back besides McCormick on offense.
Yeah, you got your 3 starting receivers are back. Your offensive line is back. They were good offensively last year. Average almost 37 a game. And looking at their schedule, they have to go to UAB. I think that's going to be the big game in November. But I'm a little concerned about UAB just because, having to change coaches, and do they have enough in the passing attack for our Dylan Hopkins? Does he have enough weapons? I like Dwayne McBride. I'll give him that. They got a good run game.
Yeah.
But Bill Clark stepping away and then putting in an interim coach, pretty much at the last minute, you have to wonder, is that going to, throw UAB off early on in the season?
Yeah, I feel like going into, I'd say, the overall breakdowns, I was going to lean to UAB maybe about a month ago when Clark was still the coach. He did such a good job with that program. And I feel like on one hand, he stepped away for health reasons in a non-Urban Meyer way, so in a legitimate way where I don't think he's going to coach anytime soon. So you can argue maybe the players will kind of use that as a rallying cry, and they might try to win this one for coach or something like that.
Win one for the clerk.
Yeah, win one for the Clark, win one for the Zipper, the Gipper, any of them, all the above. But I do think that Clark was a very, very good coach. And I am concerned when you throw in an interim. Now, so far, the interim in a coordinator role has been pretty good. But we know that head coaching is a different animal, which is why a lot of coordinators are awful when they become head coaches.
This is true.
I feel like that's a serious problem. But I guess the one counterpoint is that UAB last year was up 4 with 5 seconds left at UTSA and lost, and UTSA had the best team they've ever had.
True.
I guess the one point is, do you think UAB gets revenge at home? But I guess it really doesn't matter because we talk about how it's going to be the biggest game of the year between UAB and UTSA. Is it? Because we both still have them in the conference title game. They're going to have a rematch a month later.
This is true as well. It's good. Well, we'll say it's the biggest game of the regular season for Conference USA.
Well, Conference USA, just to make sure I got this, just to make sure my memory serves me correctly, they used to have the division system, right?
Yeah, East and West.
And they got rid of it.
Yes.
So now you actually can have the 2 best teams going at it. So if you wanted to take a long shot, this is one conference you probably shouldn't do it in because the long shots aren't going to take advantage of a weak division because there are no divisions.
Right.
So that's kind of why it's a big game, technically, until they play each other again for all the marbles in about a month. So
yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting stretch for UAB in late October to mid-November because they go at Western Kentucky, at FAU, and then they get UTSA and North Texas at home. And then they have to go to LSU for, because they just want to get beat up by an SEC team.
Yeah, I found that extremely weird when I was just looking at the schedule. Because I was looking at win totals, and I'm like, all right, UAB, good in conference play, It's like, where are they supposed to lose? And I just see LSU in the second to last week of the season.
Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, what is this? What are we doing here? I don't think LSU is going to be that good this year, but I don't think they're going to be, I'm not picking UAB to win that game, obviously. I'm picking LSU to win that game at home, but yeah, I just found that scheduling spot weird. But
yeah, it's the UAB SEC tour because last year, of course, they played at Georgia in week 2 and got obliterated.
I think I have to lean to UTSA. I think if you really wanted to, you could just take both of these teams. And if they play each other, of course, then you're going to end up just automatically winning. Or I don't really see any team shocking either of them. But if you want to talk about potentially a value play, it might sound dangerous, but if you straight bet both favorites, I think you should be making money.
I agree.
In my opinion. So that's how I'm looking at it. That's how I would approach it. Now, for win totals, I really wanted to try to find a win total that I actually liked. I found Louisiana Tech over under 5.5. 5. I found 5 flat. Most books had 4.5. I don't think Louisiana Tech's going to be good at all this year.
No, I mean, they were 3-9 last year.
They were 3-9 last year with a 2-6 conference record, so they weren't good. Skip Holtz was the coach there for an eternity. He got fired, and then I believe he went to the non-NFL professional football league, right?
Yes.
Didn't he win the title?
Yes.
Yeah, he won the title, so he did well there. But for Louisiana Tech, yeah, they have Sonny Cumpy, who was a Mike Leake disciple, so expect a lot of passes. The only problem is they don't have any quarterbacks that are actually worth a damn.
They don't really have any receivers outside of Smoke Harris.
Yeah, they have an experienced receiving core. The issue is they're just not very good. But you're looking at who the quarterbacks might be. You have fifth-year transfers Matt Downing and Parker McNeil. McNeil's attempted 2 passes in his entire college career, and that was in 2020. And Downing has not attempted more than 30 passes in a single season. So just to make sure, you have one of the worst defenses in the entire conference. You have a new defensive coordinator. Your defense isn't going to be good. We know that Louisiana Tech's defense is going to suck. And you have an air raid system with a quarterback who has been around in college for 5 years, and he basically has not played in 5 years. So I don't think this team
Company did say, though, that you could see Landry Liddy, who is an early enrollee, to play quarterback.
Good for Landry Liddy. Okay, like
he can't be any worse than the other guys.
I think the only concern that I had was the actual schedule and how many bad teams there are in this conference. And Louisiana Tech, I'm assuming, is going to start off terribly. They play Clemson on the road early on. Have fun with that one. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun for them. They play Missouri. They play Missouri in the first game. I don't like Missouri. I don't think Missouri's good at all.
But I don't think Louisiana Tech is any good. So
I was going to say Missouri should win that game at home.
You would hope.
SF Austin, it's kind of an interesting game because their new defensive coordinator was poached from SF Austin. I'm assuming Louisiana Tech's going to win that game. They play Clemson on the road. They'll get killed. They play South Alabama on the road, which I don't know who to like in that game. I think that's basically a pick 'em in my eyes.
The Jaguars are always tough at home.
I was going to say it could go either way. They play UTEP at home. UTEP is actually not a slouch anymore. The team has a win total of 5.5. Like, that team's actually not terrible.
They won 7 games last year.
I was going to say, they had a very favorable schedule out of conference last year, but still. They play at North Texas. They'll lose. Rice at home. They should win, but Rice snuck up on UAB last year. Maybe they could sneak up on them. They play at FIU. I mean, FIU is not good at all. Play Middle Tennessee. I don't like that team either.
I don't know why FIU even has a team anymore.
I was going to say, they play UTSA on the road. They play Charlotte on the road with Reynolds back for the 15th year. And they play UAB to finish out the year. So a win total of 5. I leaned under because there's a couple of just automatic losses as far as I'm concerned. I don't think they're going to beat Missouri. They're not going to beat Clemson. They're not going to beat UTSA. They're not going to beat UAB. So that's 4 losses right there. The question is, can you find another 2 or 3 for the push? And I thought the win total was kind of where it should be. So I was a little bit torn on what to actually like for win totals. Western Kentucky, I thought about 8.5 because I thought that number was pretty high. But Doge wasn't going to be the quarterback anyway. So I really didn't know what to think of that team. But some conferences, you feel like the win totals are where they should be. I didn't see any extreme outliers.
What was FIU's
wow,
total,
this team
like
is mispriced. 2? What?
What's FIU's total, like 2?
It's a flat 3. But they play Bryant.
I don't know if they can get to 3.
They play Bryant, New Mexico State, and they play Texas State on the road, and they have another game and they play UConn.
Yeah, they get UConn at home.
Yeah, so
I don't know if they get to 3.
The point is, if they end up losing to either New Mexico State or UConn, you can basically cash your bet because Texas State's not good. They're good enough to beat FIU, so I'm picking Texas State in that game at home. So it really comes down to one of those win totals, which are decided in the first month of the season because they're not going to win a conference game.
Yeah, I agree. I was just looking at their schedule. I'm like, no. That's why
it's 3.5. I would take it, but it's a flat 3. I don't know if I can fully take that.
I wonder if you could shop somewhere and find it at 3.5.
I tried. Everything I found was 3.
Well, I mean, at least they'll have a quarterback this year. Gunnar Holmberg came from Duke is going to take over.
Good for him. That worked out very well in Duke. But I don't like any win totals for this conference because I feel like everything's where it should be. I guess if I was picking one, I mean, UTSA is going to have a high win total, but I mean, they should. They got everybody back, including the coaching staff. And
Right.
yes, out of conference, their schedule is very difficult, which made this really annoying because they play Houston in the first game. Then they play Army, which is never fun on the road. Then they play at Texas, and then they get into conference play. So I don't know if I like the win total when they're out of conference play is extremely brutal.
Do you have any faith in Texas, though?
I don't know if it's a matter of faith or the fact that we know Texas' worst-case scenario is going to have much better athletes. Now, they did have a couple of season-ending injuries yesterday to some potentially key pieces. So Texas should be a little bit more shorthanded than expected. But I like UTSA as a team. I'm not picking them to beat Texas. I just think Texas has too much actual talent.
But let's not forget that this is a Texas team that lost to Kansas.
Oh, this team, I don't like Texas this year. Like, I don't think they're good. I don't think they're going to be competing for a conference title, but I'll take the points with UTSA. I'm not going to take the money line. I'll put it that way. I think Texas wins a close game, but I think they have too much talent. I think Robinson could potentially rush for like 250 yards against this team.
Yeah, that's possible.
So for win totals, I got nothing. But for the actual breakdown of the conference, I think we're both going UTSA, UAB in the final. I'll take UTSA, but I think you could play both, and they should play against each other.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I don't see it going any other way when you get right down to it.
And both teams that are favored brought back the majority of their rosters from last year. So it's not like you have a roster turnover excuse where you're missing this, and this guy, so they should struggle. No, they basically have both lineups back from last year with a couple of pieces that left, but the main pieces are back. They easily have the two best quarterbacks in the conference with Hopkins and with Harris. That's good enough for me.
Yep.
So,
and
do you have anything else you want to add?
No, like I said, UAB has a very good run game too with McBride. So, but other than that, no. I mean, both those teams, they're obviously the class of the conference. Like you said, Western Kentucky, FAU are probably the next tier, and then you might want to put North Texas in a tier by itself, and then everybody else is blows.
I kind of group North Texas with Western Kentucky. I think they're two teams that are good that maybe could catch fire at some point in the season. There's just a few too many question marks. So I would probably group North Texas with Western Kentucky if I had to put a second grouping, but no, I'm just
going to go everybody else is blows.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But that's how I'd look at it. Anyway, time to actually pivot to where the money is in the short term because the conference bets are going to be a couple months down the road to actually cash. Let's get into baseball. So, Chris, I know you have a couple of parlays set up. Let's get to it.
I'll start with the Dodgers and the Brewers. We talked about this yesterday. You know, the Dodgers pissed off that they got shut out. Urias has been on a roll. He's 9-0 in his last 10 starts. Freddie Peralta going for Milwaukee. Sure, he's 4-2. His ERA is over 4. He's pitched his 8 2/3 innings in 2 starts since coming off the IL. 2.5 months. The Dodgers score a lot of runs. They're actually not 18th in runs on the road. That was supposed to say first. I didn't say it when I got it. Yeah. Strangely, the Brewers seem to score a bunch of runs, but they don't seem to score when it matters because they'll score games. They'll win like 16-0 over Pittsburgh, and then when it matters, they don't put up any runs at all.
It was a big series win for me. I got the Cardinals to win the division, so it was nice the Cardinals took 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed they didn't win the game Saturday. That pitcher
the Wainwright no-hitter game.
Yeah, with Burns, but you know
it went to extras against Burns. You know, I expected Milwaukee to win that game, but a leadoff triple to Renfroe in the 10th. Really?
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like,
really?
Renfroe couldn't get a triple if the outfielder broke his leg chasing down the ball.
Point is, Milwaukee, we know what they are. They're going to focus on the pitching, and the pitching has been pretty good. I don't think it's been as good as we expected, and now they traded Hader. But the lineup is still atrocious. And even when they swept the 2-gamer against Tampa, offensively, they did basically nothing in the series. Just they matched up against Tampa. That's why they won. So I don't think this offense is any good. And the Dodgers, I'm not going to overreact to one bad performance offensively. I mean, they've been the best offensive team for the last month and change. So
yeah, they're 19-4 since the break. They're averaging better than 6 runs a game. I mean, I'm surprised that the number was this low.
yeah.
I mean, I thought it was going to be, closer to minus 190, 195. I don't know what you were thinking about it, but looking at
I figured it'd be 180 if I had to guess.
But are you going to back the Brewers? Are you going to go contrarian?
No, I'm going to take the Dodgers run line.
All right.
If you want to give me even money with the best team in the league right now, that's 20. I'll repeat it: 20 games over on the road. They're 39-19 on the highway, which is absolutely wild. Now Milwaukee is 7 over at home, so they're a pretty good home team. But Peralta hasn't shown me anything since coming off the IL. You mentioned the lack of overall length, and it means he hasn't been very sharp. Now, Urias has had a bit of a home run issue, kinda. He's given up 15 home runs in 122 and 2/3 innings. But Milwaukee doesn't have much pop in the lineup. They have a couple of guys who can hit home runs, but they don't make contact on the ball that much. So I'm not concerned by it, but Urias has been amazing for the last month and change as well.
With slam Rowdy Tellez.
I was going to say, I mean, you got Tellez, Adames on occasion. I mean, Yelich has been a disaster, both power-wise, so he technically has power, but he hasn't shown it. They don't have many options, and I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers because if the Dodgers get to 4, there's no guarantee Milwaukee gets to 3.
True.
So I'll go with the Dodgers run line.
All right, and now, speaking of guys that give up homers, how about the Phillies and the Reds at the Great American Ballpark? That's right, it's Mike Minor Day, Scott.
Yep.
Minor, you were just talking about how Urias has given up 15 homers. Minor's given up 18 in 62 innings.
The Minor is like all-time home runs per 9.
At home, he's given up 11 in 36 innings this year.
It's not good.
Load up those home run props for the Phillies.
I'm assuming you're going to have to lay a pretty penny on half the team, but I feel like, Hoskins is the automatic name I look for immediately because he caught fire about a week or two ago, hitting home runs in 4 straight games. Yep. He's done well in his career against left-handed pitching. Like Schwarber I like, but at the same point, it is a lefty-lefty if that scares you. Don't you kind of just assume that if somebody's going to go yard, it's going to be Hoskins in this game?
Hoskins or Castellanos, because Castellanos has homered against him a couple times in his career. Rye says take Segura props. He owns Minor.
It's an option too. Point is, if you really want to stack up on righty batters, either in DFS or prop-wise against Minor, it should work out pretty well.
Yeah.
Even and the Phillies, if you want to be bold, Vierling. I don't know, anybody.
Yeah, take Bohm.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Phillies, we just talked about the Dodgers being mad. They got blanked yesterday. The Phillies are coming off back-to-back shutouts.
Okay.
So, and Rye said Schwarber's out. With that.
By the way, I see a typo in the slide. I think you mean the Reds are 45 and 70.
Yeah, I meant to change it.
Okay.
But yeah, so, the Reds are terrible.
Yeah, and Rye is saying the Schwarber's out for the record, but it's fine. I still like the righties against Minor in this matchup.
I agree too. I mean, do you think that the Reds can? I also think that you see this game go over the total. It's only at 9.
Yeah, I'm leaning to the over. For me, I'm going to go with the Phillies here, but I will acknowledge that I have not been totally impressed with Syndergaard so far since he's joined the team. He shut down the Marlins last time out. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. But he didn't look good in his first start against the Nationals. I think that there should be runs in this game, so I would lean to the over, but I can't take the Reds' money line when Minor's still getting starts. I just can't do it.
Right. And Scott, BJ thinks it's your show. He wants to know what you thought about the Dodgers and Brewers, which we just talked about.
Well, yeah, we just talked about it. We like the Dodgers here. Peralta hasn't really shown anything since he came back from the IL. Urias has been very good. Dodgers are a great offensive team. Brewers are not. We think the Dodgers get back on track and win, I don't even know, like 5-2, 6-2.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you can't trust Milwaukee's bullpen.
Yep.
That happened. I mean, Boxberger's been bad. Devin Williams has fallen apart. It basically says they traded Hader because everybody was talking about how he had 30 consecutive scoreless innings. And
Yeah, some
then look,
pitchers can handle the closing role, and some pitchers are really good in the setup spot. And it seems like Williams is more of a setup guy.
kind of like Clay Holmes.
A little bit. Well, he was good. He was good as a closer for a while, though. Like I don't even know if Williams ever peaked as a closer.
This is true. Well, he didn't really get a chance to because Hader was there.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know if he's ever even successfully been a closer at any point. Holmes was for like 2-3 months.
That's true. Well, based on those, we'll go to 2 for the money, Scott. And how about, look, there's the Phillies again. And I'm going to take the Braves with Spencer Strider over the Mets. I know Strider had his struggles against New York his last time out, but they're playing this one in Atlanta, not Citi Field. I'm still not sold on Cookie Carrasco this late into the season. I know he pitched fairly well in his last outing. But
I had him last time out, but it was against the Reds, so I don't know if that counts.
Well, as I was going to say, it wasn't against necessarily a good lineup. I'd get Carrasco. He'll probably, he's had a good year. I'm not going to take anything away from him. 13 wins. I just don't know how he's going to pitch in Atlanta. The Braves seem to score a lot of runs at home.
I think this is a no play for me. I feel like on principle, I would lean to the Mets just because of the value that you're getting. I understand why Atlanta's favored. I know that Strider's a very good pitcher. You mentioned the concerns about Carrasco and the innings that he's actually pitched so far, but the Mets are really like plus 130.
Is it 130?
Like the Mets are absolutely just cooking right now. I feel like I'd have to blindly take the Mets because I love that plus price. And I get that Strider's a good pitcher, but he's also a rookie. It's not like you're against Garrett Cole or DeGrom or Alcantara or any of these guys. Like you're against a rookie who was okay against the Mets about a week and a half ago. He wasn't amazing. I think it's a very good deal on the Mets, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I just think the Mets, we've seen them come into series like this and then, fold up shop. They beat up on the Braves last week, then they beat the Reds, and they took 2 or 3 from the Phillies. You have to wonder where's the letdown coming, because we've seen that happen so often with New York. Look at the way they faded last year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's based on reputation, but I'm just watching this team, and I think the Mets might actually make it to the World Series. Like I know the Dodgers are the team, but we also talk about how the Dodgers choke every year in non-bubble, in non-COVID year playoff event situations. But I just really like that Mets team. I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, like I said, and with Carrasco, my concern is the fact that, he's thrown more innings this year than he threw in the last 2 combined.
Yeah.
And, he's 35? He'll be 36.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait for Carrasco to fully fail me because I backed him last time out and he pitched very well. Rye saying the Mets are 14-3 against rookie starters, which sounds good, except for the fact that Strider is better than like every other rookie starter. But still, I'm going to go with the Mets for the value. The Braves could very well win this game, but when the Mets are priced as this big of a dog, it's kind of an auto play at this point. The Mets are just so good.
Yeah, and his lone outing at Truist Park, Carrasco gave up 5 runs on 7 hits with 2 walks and 5 strikeouts, gave up 2 homers.
I think I'd lean to the over in this game based on total. But
yeah, I can see that. And we talk about the Dodgers. Then we got the Astros. Are you surprised that the Astros are that small of a favorite on the road against the White Sox, or Queedy versus Cueto?
I personally am. Cueto has good numbers this season, but he's actually been better on the road than at home. Urquidy's been pretty good. I mean, his ERA is 3.85, which sounds mediocre, but his WHIP is actually lower than Cueto's. And he has an 11-4 record, so they give him a bunch of run support. Now, the concern is the wind is blowing out to right field, and Urquidy's given up 20 home runs. So that's kind of the concern there because you're afraid of a couple of long balls, but the White Sox aren't a very good baseball team. And they're also below 500 at home. So I'll have to lean to Houston on principle. It seems trappy. I get it if you want to stay away. But the White Sox have been mispriced the entire season. There are some teams, as far as I'm concerned, that are basically immune to sketchy lines. I think the White Sox are one of them because they've been favored in a lot of games this year, and they've lost a lot of games this year. Urquidy's not good on the road, but I don't want to take the White Sox pretty much in any game against a good team. I don't think the White Sox are good. Am I supposed to overreact that they swept the Tigers? Like, congratulations. You lost the series to the Royals right before that.
Yeah,
I don't think the White Sox are good. And they're still missing Anderson. They're still missing pieces.
Yeah, to your point, Cueto 1-3, a 3.71 ERA at home, 3-2, a 2.12 ERA on the road.
So I guess I'm going to lean to Houston. I'm going to lean to the over, but I have no interest. I'll tell you what, it's either Houston or pass because there's no way that I'm taking the White Sox against an elite team. As long as La Russa's the manager, I don't trust this team on a day-in, day-out basis. So,
yeah, I just think that, like you said, with missing pieces, missing Anderson at the top of that lineup is a big blow for the White Sox.
Yeah.
And, Houston, we saw Bregman homer yesterday, so hey, he's back on track. Still got Altuve. I know they'll miss Michael Brantley, but he hasn't played since June anyway.
Yeah, he's officially out for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I just think the Astros have the better lineup here. So even if you call the pitching matchup a wash.
And the bullpen.
Yeah, that's true. They do have the better bullpen.
The White Sox bullpen is so underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, you expected more out of Hendricks and Graveman and those guys.
They got Diekman back, if that counts for something. Oh, boy. I know, exactly. They don't have many options.
All right, now we'll go on to 4 for the show. Look, there's a couple teams with plus money in there, and we won't talk about the Yankees because we talked about that ad nauseum already.
We're fading the Cooch.
Yeah, can you actually find a way to back him? I don't think so. They just lost 2 out of 3 to Cleveland over the weekend, including yesterday where Gausman pitched. And Bieber won as a underdog. I was surprised that they were going off at almost plus 130.
Yeah,
in that situation. But yeah, it's Bradish. I know he hasn't been great. He pitched all right against Toronto last week when he faced Manoah. Here he gets Kikuchi, and we talked about how bad he is and how we're surprised that he still has a starting job.
Yeah.
Anything you have to say about that?
I feel like the one concern is the fact that I don't like Baltimore's starter in this game. Now, Toronto's been awful lately. I think the play I would have is a team total over for Baltimore. Just fade Kikuchi, take the over in walks, take the over in earned runs, really anything that you want to do involving fading Kikuchi. So I'll probably look for a team total over there. I think that's the most tempting option.
They've got him, the over for him to go 5 1/3 is plus 173.
Okay. I saw Baltimore first 5 team total was 2.5 at plus money, which annoyed me because I really wanted to lay juice with 1.5. But I have to fade Kikuchi, but I'm not going to take Baltimore money line. I think you can look for maybe an in play if you want to take Baltimore first 5, but I like the first 5 over. I see runs from both sides, especially early on in this game.
They moved Kikuchi's walk total from 1.5 to 2.5.
Damn it.
Over 2.5 is plus 145.
What's the strikeouts on Kikuchi?
5.5 is plus, over is plus 114, under is minus 140-ish.
I probably lean to the under, but you're kind of pricing him to go 5 innings tops. Yeah, give me the team total over for Baltimore. I'll keep fading Kikuchi.
This one I went because Joe Musgrove hasn't won in how long now?
He hasn't been good in a while, and Alcantara's Alcantara. So.
Yeah, I just want to. I know Musgrove. We talked about it last week when he pitched against San Francisco. He is now 0-5 in his last 8 starts.
I'm sure the Padres are thrilled they paid him all that money.
Well, I mean, he's got a couple. He took a loss to the Twins when he gave up 2 runs in 6. He took a no decision against the Giants twice. First in July, he gave up no runs on a hit in 7 innings. In a game they won 2-1. I think that was Logan Webb pitched in that game.
Yep.
And then in his last start last Tuesday, that was the game where Hader came in and blew the lead in the 9th before they won it in the bottom of the 9th. So, I mean, he's had a couple good starts in that stretch, but he's also had starts where he gave up 6, 5, 4, and 6. I don't think the Marlins are going to get 6. If they do, then Musgrove has bigger issues than we thought.
Yeah.
But it's hard to go against Alcantara, especially at home, where his ERA is like what, -6.
Yeah, I feel like the one problem you have with Miami is the fact that if you take them full game, you have to worry what happens when they bring in the bullpen. But the counterpoint is Alcantara usually walks into 8 innings.
Yeah, I mean,
So
he's 6-3 at home. His ERA is 1.8.
yeah, but the innings are disgusting because he
Yeah,
just
90
pitches 8 innings every time.
Yeah, 90 innings at home.
Yeah, so I'd fade Musgrove too in this spot, especially if you're getting plus money with Alcantara. I know San Diego's offense is great, but we've seen them struggle at times. I still think Alcantara being plus money as the clear runaway Cy Young favorite is a steal. -1.5 is a bit dicey because I'm not even sure the Marlins score 2 runs in this game. But I'll go with
out 3.
What's San Diego's team total in this one? Is it 4.5?
I think so. Let me double check real quick.
That's probably my favorite play. I would take the Padres team total under.
Let's see. Padres and Marlins. Let's see. San Diego. 3.5 is -105. Over 4.5 is +155.
What's the under 4.5?
Under 4.5 is -200. Under 3.5 is -1.25.
Okay. I wish it was higher, but okay. Fair enough. I'll lean to Miami money line as well for the value.
The Mariners, Castillo and Ohtani. I just don't trust the Angels to do anything offensively. You look, Castillo's made 2 starts since coming over from Seattle. They were both
He's been so good.
Yeah, I hate to break it to everybody. The Yankees have a better lineup than the Angels.
Yeah.
I don't think the Angels are going to do a whole lot against him. And Ohtani, he'll strike some guys out, but I mean, we watched him lose to Oakland last week.
That is true.
I can't get behind. I don't understand why the Mariners are only at -104.
It's because Ohtani is always going to be overpriced, but we've seen, as you said before, the Angels don't give much run support. So I like Castillo. I think that it's a good value play, especially with J-Rod in the lineup, so the lineup should be better. I think it's a good price.
And we talked about the Yankees, so we don't need to talk about them.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the shot in the dark. Guess what? I'm going to go with Anthony Santander over 1.5 total bases again. I would have put
Mountcastle. I always like Santander.
Yeah, well, I mean, he homered against Kikuchi last week.
Yep.
I would have put Mountcastle in there, but I don't know if he's going to play.
That's fair.
Otherwise, he'd be in here too. Castellanos, we talked about how he's homered twice against Minor in his career, and basically you could put any Phillies guy in here that you wanted to, and it would probably hit. I would have put Hoskins in, but he was at, I think, -122 or something like that. Austin Riley. Do we need to say anything about him?
No, he's the extra base king.
There you go. Mookie Betts at plus money against the Brewers. Do you get it? Does this make sense to you?
I was going to say Peralta has not really proven anything since coming off the IL, so it's a shaky starter. Betts has been very good. He might go yard in the first at-bat of the game. I mean, he's been pretty good in the leadoff spot. Yeah, I think at plus 130, that's just a good price.
The White Sox have to have somebody hit the ball. I'm going to go with Eloy Jimenez.
Okay.
And if you want a guy that nobody talks about, it's Arias. He's hitting .333 on the year.
Leading the batting average.
His last 6 games, and this includes going 0 for 4 yesterday, 13 for 26.
He's a really, really good hitter. He doesn't give you much power, and he doesn't give you all the extra bases that you'd want maybe for a prop like this. But, I mean, Arias is one of those guys you look at the scoreboard or you look at the box score, and he's 3 for 5, and you're like, all right, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, I think he had like 2 or 3 3-hit games in the last week.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
I mean, he's what, Kenny Mayne would call a professional hitter. The A's over the Rangers, it's Kaprelian and Glenn Otto. I can't get behind Glenn Otto.
I was going to say Kaprelian's actually been okay lately. Otto has still been his typical self.
I mean, I know it's the A's. I know they don't score at all. But come on, anybody can score on the Rangers.
Yeah.
It's like playing hockey or playing, NHL 94 or whatever. and shooting into the empty net or just playing San Jose. Castillo over 7.5 strikeouts. I mean, come on, we know the Angels strike out a lot, right?
Plus, Castillo's actually going to length. He'll probably go like 7 in this start, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Urquidy over 4.5 strikeouts. The White Sox, they're not a very good lineup, like you said, and I don't have faith in them. And Strider, he only went 2 2/3 against the Mets in his last outing. Still struck out 5. He struck out 8 against them and 4 2/3 in his previous start against them. I think he can get over 6.5. I would have put Cole up here because, like I said, he struck out 29 in 3 starts against the Rays. But the numbers were ridiculous. I think they had him at over 9.5.
9.5. I was going to guess 8.5 if I had to guess a number there.
Oh, they trended it back down at Unibet. It's over 9.5, and at Bet Rivers, everybody else and FanDuel has it over 9.5.
Yeah.
DraftKings and BetMGM and Caesars have revised it down to 8.5.
That's where it should be at. You rarely see 9.5 unless it's like Scherzer, DeGrom, or any of these other like elite pitchers. And Cole should be elite, but so far this season, he hasn't been as good as people thought he was going to be.
He's been elitely inconsistent.
Yeah, that is definitely true. By the way, point out something that BJ said that's unrelated. Talk about the Twins and how they're a decent team, but they give up too many leads. I'm going to ask you that because we just talked about the White Sox. Are they actually a decent team, or are they just the product of a really bad division?
They're the product of a bad division.
I don't think the Twins are very good.
No, they don't have, like you said last week when Male started on Friday, he's basically, you said he'd be the number 2 starter behind Gray. I say he's the number 1 starter in that rotation.
The fact that it's an argument's a problem.
Yeah. But, Joe Ryan is a good middle of the rotation guy, but I mean, you're still trotting out Archer every 5th or 6th day, and it's like, why?
Yeah, the division leader has Archer in the rotation. Like we got to actually just briefly separate that for a second. Like that's crazy.
They actually don't lead the division anymore.
Oh, sorry, the team that was competing for division lead is using Archer every 5th day.
Yeah, Archer and Bundy.
Yeah,
and I faded both of them over the weekend, even though it was the Angels.
Yep.
But I mean, you have to. I mean, you look at that rotation. The bullpen isn't great. I mean, Pagana's been terrible. Griffin Jacks still isn't good.
Yep.
Thielbar isn't great. I mean, Duran is probably their best reliever.
No, last year was fluky. Like, they weren't that bad. I think they just had a bad year last year. But the fact that they're winning this division, like, you put Minnesota in any other division, they're probably in, like, 3rd place.
If they're lucky.
Yeah. I'd say 3rd. Like, they're not bad. I'd probably put them at 3rd.
But, I mean, the fact that we're saying that shows that they're not as good as their record indicates. They're just not they're a mediocre team. They got mediocre pitching. They have some guys that can hit. You got Buxton and Correa.
And Buxton's actually been pretty healthy this year. He's gotten injured every now and then, but we're used to seeing him on like the 60-day IL at this point of the season.
This is true.
So,
but yeah, other than that, I don't think they're very good.
Yep.
And I think that sums it up.
Did you mention Strider, or you didn't mention Strider?
Yeah, I mentioned it. I said he had 5 Ks in 2 2/3 and 8 and 4 2/3 against the Mets. So he should be able to get 6.5 as long as he stays in for more than 3 innings.
Cool. I was going to ask you, though, before we wrap up, though, we did Conference USA today. We did not actually talk about which conference we're going to do for tomorrow. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Which conference do you want to do tomorrow?
Let's do the Sun Belt.
Okay, we'll do the Sun Belt tomorrow. Before we officially wrap up, though, got to take care of some housekeeping. We're brought to you by BetMGM. They have a great deal for you for first-time users of their app or website. Get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. All the information is in the show box. Check the age limits, and as always, bet responsibly. But that's going to do it for this episode of Just Parlays. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Until then, good luck to all of you and all your bets. Bye, everyone.